A confused man stares into his bathroom mirror and finds a stranger staring back. The reflection has white hair, formal clothes, and one very important question written across its face: who exactly is this? The answer comes in stereo. He is Lee Hoyeol, yet the body introduces itself as Grandfell Cloudy Arpaeus Romeo. That is not a name. That is a full royal procession. Grandfell identifies himself as the successor of a great clan, and a status window confirms the demon hunter class. Hoyeol, watching from inside his own reflection, realizes just how bad this is. Even while Hoyeol spirals, Grandfell's body sits down and prepares a perfectly composed meal. Panic on the inside, aristocratic breakfast service on the outside. Completely normal morning. Between those absurdly refined motions, Hoyeol pieces it together. He has become a character he created 12 years earlier, during his second year of middle school. Back then, teenage Hoyeol poured himself into designing this alter ego, sketching every detail with the deadly seriousness only a middle schooler can summon. When the design was complete, young Hoyeol cackled like a tiny supervillain and proudly declared Grandfell, another precious version of himself. Puberty had apparently hired a full-time lore department. Adult Hoyeol finally identifies the culprit: history of the Archana continent, the virtual reality world where he created Grandfell 12 years ago. No rival ever topped Archana, right up until its service abruptly ended. On that same day, Raymond, CEO of developer Cosmo, vanished too. Apparently one mystery was not dramatic enough. Then Arcana itself appeared in reality. Red fractures tore across cities, turning familiar streets into pieces of the game as if someone had installed the worst update imaginable. Monsters poured through those ruptures all over the world, and humanity naturally assumed the apocalypse had arrived. Honestly, the giant red beasts were making a strong case. But people also assimilated with their old game characters. Their avatars and combat abilities became real, giving humanity something capable of fighting back. The awakened users became known as players, and they arrived wearing the forms of their in-game characters. Suddenly, fantasy heroes were walking around in the real world. Players could use their game skills for real, which made them humanity's answer to the invading monsters. Convenient because ordinary office training does not cover monster invasions. After saving lives and defeating monsters, the strongest players quickly became public heroes. Gamers had officially become the people everyone wanted on a poster. Young Hoyeol dreamed of joining them, but reality had other plans. Sitting beside the adult he might become, he realized fame was never waiting for a kid who barely got time inside Archana. A virtual reality machine cost tens of millions of won, and even renting one was crushingly expensive. After his business failed, Hoyle's father could only apologize. His father mourned that he could not even let his son play as many games as he wanted. The apology hurt more because the whole family was already struggling. Hoyeol and his mother tried to comfort him. Hoyeol insisted his father had done nothing wrong, while his mother firmly told everyone to stop turning this into a tragedy. The family circumstances forced Hoyeol to quit Archana before completing even 1 year. Now that the game has invaded reality, that sensible old decision feels spectacularly mistimed. His abandoned character is only level 55 with weak stats to match. So yes, Hoyeol finally awakened, but he spawned as an underleveled monument to puberty. Grandfell calmly judges the tea to be good, while Hoyeol screams internally about losing his mind. The body is serene, the original owner is absolutely not. The character behind that body is Grandfell Cloudy Arpaeus Romeo, Hoyeol's most heavily developed middle school creation. Naturally, teenage imagination gave him enough hair and titles for 3 protagonists. In Hoyle's old lore, Grandfell was heir to a great family, surrounded by wealth and prestige and all the tasteful restraint a dramatic teenager could imagine. A demon slaughtered Grandfell's entire family and left him alone among the burning ruins. Even by Grandfell's standards, the tragedy came with enough thunder and darkness to frighten the weather itself. For revenge, Grandfell took up a bloodied sword and became a demon hunter. Subtle? No. Perfectly reasonable character design for a middle schooler? Apparently. What once felt cool now qualifies as Hoyle's darkest embarrassment. Grandfell sips tea with perfect dignity while the man inside desperately tells his own mouth to shut up. His next worry is work. He imagines a coworker spotting the silver hair, calling him a celebrity, and asking whether he plans to become an idol. In that imagined office reunion, Grandfell answers the teasing by throwing coffee straight into the man's face. Hoyeol can practically hear the lawsuit filing itself. Retreat is impossible, however, because Grandfell insists that nobles never bow before adversity. Worse, Hoyeol realizes every sentence now comes out in Grandfell's painfully grandiose voice. A television interview says most players feel almost unchanged after assimilating. Hoyeol hears that and wonders why becoming Grandfell feels less like a change and more like a hostile takeover. Returning to an ordinary workplace like this seems impossible, so he decides player work is his only option. Small problem, his arcana knowledge is a decade out of date. His surge reveals that top-ranked players can earn hundreds of millions of won by clearing dangerous ruptures. The money sounds fantastic right up until the monsters start swinging. But every reward depends on risking his life in battle, and Hoyeol values breathing more than a heroic paycheck. For once, Grandfell's pride may be financially useful. Grandfell declares that someone who has tasted true abundance has no need for material wealth. Hoyeol accepts the bizarre logic. For once, aristocratic nonsense may actually save his life. So Hoyeol turns his research toward modern demon hunters. The search returns 2 miserable pages, mostly ordinary news articles, as if the internet has personally decided to betray him. One headline explains the silence Akshan base fell the previous night. All 152 demon hunter NPCs there were killed, with 0 survivors. That was not just another town. Akshan was the only place to become a demon hunter, and the class is Holy Land, now reduced to burning wreckage. With Akshan destroyed and every demon hunter NPC dead, the class had effectively vanished from the world. Demon hunter was buried, forgotten, and apparently too unpopular to receive a proper funeral. To be fair, demon hunters were hardly thriving 10 years ago. Their stats were low, their build paths awkward, and even their flashy name skills hit embarrassingly softly. Leveling through monster hunts was unusually difficult, so the class depended on daily quests for experience. Yes, the feared demon hunter spent plenty of time delivering bread. Against actual demons, however, the class was unmatched. Those underwhelming skills suddenly became brutally effective when the target came with horns and terrible life choices. The catch was that demons only appeared inside demon hunter quests, and those missions demanded absurd repetition: kill demons, then kill more, then somehow kill even more. With weak general performance and a legendary grind, other players dismissed the entire role as useless. Seeing one in public was apparently enough to invite open mockery. Being mocked was one thing. Being unable to advance was worse. With Ashan's quest givers and skill teachers dead, even Hoyeol's humble bread delivery career path had vanished. Hoyeol keeps digging, scrolling past dead ends and wondering whether the internet has anything useful left to offer. Then a forum claim catches up with him. Anyone who kept playing Demon Hunter should now be thriving. The reason appears in one loaded word: update. That update added demons to the monsters already roaming Earth. The creatures are no longer confined to special quests. They are here, enormous, furious, and very real. Player casualties have surged because demons inflict mental disruption and possession. Even fighters above level 200 are struggling, which makes Hoyeol's level 55 look almost decorative. If demons are loose, why have no demon hunters handled them? Hoyeol bends over the desk as one uncomfortable answer forms. Perhaps there are none left besides him. The possibility lands hard after Akshan's fall. Hoyeol may truly be the only demon hunter left. But taking responsibility after a 10-year absence is another matter. Demons may have changed completely, and even modern high-level players cannot cope with them. Before Hoyeol can finish doubting himself, Grandfell's voice cuts in with a wonderfully supportive message. You are weak. Thanks, mysterious alter ego. Excellent team morale. Grandfell refuses to run from mere demons. He introduces himself with all 4 names because apparently even courage needs a full aristocratic signature. And there it is. Grandfell calls that absolute refusal his pride. Hoyeol may be terrified, but the personality steering their body has already rejected retreat. Hoyeol finally says, "All right, let's do this." Grandfell immediately dismisses all that hesitation as a pointless thought. Fantastic, apparently even his courage gets reviewed. The casualty report keeps showing civilians helpless against the demon update. Grandfell has seen enough. For him, stepping in is no longer optional. He straightens his suit and addresses the unseen demons with icy courtesy. They should feel honored because he intends to send them straight back to hell. Years after the Great Cataclysm, the damage is real, but people are back on their feet. Players and civilians now share the same streets because humanity can apparently normalize anything. Unfortunately, all that buried fear and frustration is gourmet food for demons. One lurking imp pulls human emotions like puppet strings, then casually chooses its next group of victims. Outside a low-level rupture, 4 players wait for their final teammate. Their leader, the red-haired tanker named Shohoman, checks the time while the others joke around. The last member arrives with a minute to spare, dressed in a black business suit instead of armor. It is Hoyeol, looking less like a raider and more like he wandered out of a corporate interview. Shellman welcomes Hoyeol, who finally sees a rupture through a player's eyes, a violent purple tear bending the street around it. Ordinary pedestrians cannot even perceive the distortion. The gate is Null's underground storage, recommended for levels 35 to 40, with destruction at 19.8%. At level 55, Hoyeol figures this should be manageable. Then reality checks his confidence. The current average player entering ruptures is around level 200. Hoyeol is hopelessly behind, so this similarly leveled party is exactly what he needs. The rest of the lineup is Han Sang-wak, a close-range deal tanker, Choi Jong-kun, a close-range dealer, and Seo Jong-yeon, the party's magic dealer. Ruptures are ticking bombs. If destruction progress reaches 100%, the gate breaks and its monsters enter reality, so players are allowed to raid these threats freely. 5 minutes later, the cheerful party heads in together. Everyone is pumped for an easy hunt, while Hoyeol quietly tries to remember how normal teammates are supposed to behave. Hoyeol thinks social survival should be easy after growing up as the only boy among 3 sisters, Yoonhye, Jiyoon, and Yurim. He has endured the Great Sister War after all. He tries to match the friendly mood, but Grandfell hijacks his mouth and grandly announces that nobody needs to worry because he is here. The party responds with weaponized silence. The group recovers by discussing Knowles and promising an easy clear. Hoyeol wisely decides that contributing any more majestic speeches would only make things worse. A system notice confirms their entry into Knowles' underground storage, food storage. The blood-smeared interior immediately suggests that another group had a very bad lunch break. No Knowles appear at first, but the bloody remains confirm that a party entered earlier. Shoman confidently chooses a route and promises there will still be plenty of prey. As the group advances, Hoyle's instincts keep scratching at him. He cannot explain the feeling yet, but something about this supposedly easy raid is definitely wrong. Then Knowles appears 70 meters ahead, cutting his thoughts short. Cheolman calls the formation forward, and the party prepares for its first proper clash. Hoyeol studies the modern formation and finds it bizarre. Cheolman provokes enemies instead of shielding allies, Sewon-wook handles most defense, and Cheolnyeon supplies most of the damage. The veterans trigger a stamina buff and sprint ahead, leaving Hoyeol behind in his office suit. Apparently, the raid's first challenge is simply keeping up with people dressed for cardio. His inventory is not comforting. 1 bow, a costly silver arrow, and an equally expensive silver dagger that is also weak. Conserving ammunition suddenly sounds like excellent financial planning. The bad feeling pays off immediately. Knowles burst from behind the pillars, surrounding the party so quickly that even Sangwa cannot hold the line. Jong-kun begs Choman for help, but the supposed tanker only watches from safety while the formation collapses. Whatever Shoman is doing, protecting his party is clearly not on the list. A Null closes in behind Jong-kun. Hoyeol spots it first and shouts a warning just before the blade comes down, buying his teammate 1 precious heartbeat. That heartbeat is enough. Hoyeol fires, and the silver arrow crashes into the Null before it can finish its attack. Expensive ammunition meet extremely justified purchase. Grandfell coolly declares that punishment is sometimes necessary. Even after saving a teammate, he somehow manages to sound like a nobleman passing sentence in court. Jong-kun thanks Hoyeol, then quietly wonders what is wrong with the way he talks. Hoyeol agrees completely. Unfortunately, Grandfell is still the one controlling the microphone. Two more gnolls slip behind the formation and Jongyeon freezes. Panic locks the young mage in place before she can choose a spell or even decide where to aim. Hoyeol stays perfectly calm. He tells Jongyeon to prepare her strongest spell, regardless of casting time, while he holds every approaching gnoll away from her. The gamble works. Jongyeon completes Fire Arrow, and a blazing projectile tears through the swarm while Hoyeol watches from the front line. Once the flames settle, Hoyeol checks on Jongyeon and immediately wonders whether he can retrieve that pricey silver arrow. Heroism is noble, but ammunition is not free. Jong-kun accepts a healing potion, then explodes at Cheoman. The tanker ignored hidden enemies, failed to defend anyone, and almost led his entire party into a massacre. Jong-kun demands an explanation for the obvious trap. Instead, Choman starts laughing, then cruelly mocks Jong-kun for relying on his famous brother. Jongyeon spots an unnatural flame near Choman and recoils in terror. Hoyeol's earlier suspicion finally has a shape, and the supposedly friendly tanker is clearly hiding something monstrous. The system confirms it. Natural enemy activates, and Hoyeol's battle power surges against the demon. He looks straight at Cheoman and delivers the verdict nobody wanted to hear. The imp finally reveals itself behind Cheoman, delighted that the party took so long to notice. The possession is no longer a suspicion. The monster is practically posing for evidence. Hoyeol repeats the accusation. Cheoman is a demon. The party cannot accept it, but natural enemy has already activated, meaning a genuine demon is standing directly in front of him. As everyone stares at their leader, the imp's influence begins spreading through the group. Confusion gives way to terror before anyone can organize a defense. Then each teammate feels completely alone, as if the storage room and everyone inside it have vanished. The demon has not moved their bodies, it has dragged their minds into private nightmares. Inside the illusion, each victim sees the others swallowed by shadowy hands. The imp barely needs claws when raw panic is already doing the heavy lifting. The system names the effect fear. Their mentality is too low while a demon observes them. Everyone trembles inside an illusion, except Hoyeol, who remains completely focused. The imp uses Charmin as a shield, warning that killing the demon will also kill its human host. Hoyeol does not back away, which genuinely unsettles the little monster. Cheoman's heavy armor blocks a direct stab, so Hoyeol calmly adjusts his target to the gaps. A hostage situation has somehow become a lesson in proper knife placement. Natural enemy keeps raising Hoyeol's battle power as he closes in. The stronger the demonic presence becomes, the more dangerous the supposedly underleveled demon hunter becomes in return. The imp mocks the party for abandoning a friend the instant he looks dangerous. Hoyeol gives the speech exactly the respect it deserves. None, calmly closing in while the monster keeps talking. For one sharp instant, the silver dagger reaches the creature hiding inside the human body. The imp realizes this ordinary-looking office worker can actually touch it. The imp recoils in disbelief. Silver is especially effective against it, and a human it considered harmless has just carved through both its confidence and its defenses. When the creature tries to bargain, Grandfell shuts it down with one icy rule: he does not speak to prey. Hoyeol may be panicking internally, but the delivery is brutally effective. In Cheoman's trapped mind, Timon's old warning returns. His younger brother had urged him to leave dangerous ruptures behind instead of risking his life on the front line. Tommen offers him a safer place in Gon as an analyst. Cheoman can only force a smile. Accepting his little brother's help feels painfully close to admitting he is a failure. Other players openly ask whether Cheoman is really Tommen's older brother, or even related to him at all. Every laugh pushes his shame and resentment a little deeper. All Cheoman wanted was to become an older brother Tommen could respect. That vulnerable wish attracted the observing imp, which whispered that it would help him from now on. Because Cheoman's mentality was too low, the imp inflicted possession and took control. His earlier confidence at the root junction was the demon steering everyone toward an ambush. Inside the rupture, the party shouts that Cheoman is a demon. He hears every warning, but possession keeps his armored body moving while his teammates brace for him. Cheoman's guilt cannot break the possession, and Hoyeol refuses to give the imp a pause. He drives another silver strike into the armored body, forcing the hidden demon to feel every hit. Pain finally makes the demon desperate. It screams that killing it will kill Shaman too, hoping the threat of becoming a murderer will make Hoyeol hesitate. Hoyeol does not answer the imp's threat. He studies Sheolmin in silence instead, searching beneath the possession for proof that the man is still fighting. Grandfell calls that resolve Cholmon's pride. It sounds theatrical naturally, but the message is clear. Hoyeol understands that Cholmon would rather fight than remain the demon's puppet. Hoyeol commits to the finishing strike. The silver blade passes through Cheolman's possessed body and reaches the terrified imp hiding inside him. Hoyeol looks through the demon and addresses the man trapped beneath it. He tells Nam Sholmin that the pride Sholmin entrusted to him has been received. Cheolman wakes in his own body, surrounded by relieved teammates. He remembers being stabbed and cannot understand why he is alive without a wound. Hoyeol simply repeats his earlier promise that there was no need to worry. Cholmin may have felt the blade, but the demon hunter was never attacking him. Hoyeol explains that human negative emotions empower demons, so fear is basically free monster food. He tells the party to hold on to their pride, then reveals why Cholmin survived. Demon hunter attacks strike only the demon, never its human host. Hoyeol is pleased that he still remembers the old class logic. Then he checks the defeated imp and finds no loot at all. Even evil apparently can be broke. Later, an anonymous post describes the Line 4 raid. An imp possessed the party leader, and an unnamed monster of a teammate beat it. Commenters dismiss the whole thing as fiction. Nam Tamin hesitates to trust a random post, even as a guildmaster. Cheolman answers with the detail nobody online knows. The possessed party leader was him. That makes Tamin spit out his coffee. Cholman's younger brother is no ordinary player. He is a level 368 barbarian, ranked 11th worldwide, and guildmaster of Gaon. After the raid, Tamin can hardly believe his older brother's decision. Cholman, who always resisted desk work, now wants to quit frontline combat and become a Gaon analyst. The brothers trade a little sarcasm, but Cholman is serious. Being possessed exposed both his weakness and his real strength. He belongs behind the strategy table, not behind a shield. Cholman admits he spent years struggling to keep pace with his gifted younger brother. Hoyeol's words about pride finally convinced him to stop chasing Tamin and choose his own path. Tamin becomes fascinated by the stranger who changed Sheolman. Resisting the imp's status effect suggests enormous mentality, but the man fought with a dagger rather than recognizable magic. Thousands of classes exist in Archana, yet Tamin cannot identify this one or explain why such a powerful man entered a tiny low-level rupture. Cholman starts wondering whether even his own brother believes him. Tamin makes his trust practical. Cholman's boss analyses, guild management methods, and scouting advice already built much of his success. If anyone belongs behind Gaon's strategy table, it is his older brother. Tamin has already prepared an analyst contract. He proudly welcomes Cholman to Gaon, and the older brother finally accepts recognition for the skills he actually owns. The contract terms leave Cholman speechless. Tamin clearly values his brother's brain far more than Cholman ever valued it himself. Meanwhile, Hoyeol discovers that killing one imp raised him from level 55 to 67. 12 levels from one demon makes the worthless gnolls look even more like fuzzy pocket change. Hoyeol is thrilled by the gain. Grandfell dismisses it as beneath his concern. The inner office worker now has 12 stat points to distribute while his own mouth pretends not to care. Hoyeol wants to collapse into bed and think later. Grandfell notices the messy apartment first, declares that a clean environment creates a clean mind, and forces the exhausted body to start cleaning. The same rigid personality cooks a healthy meal, follows a proper schedule, and practices relentless self-restraint. Hoyeol misses delivery food, but even he admits Grandfell is making him healthier. That observation reveals a major rule. Grandfell's written traits are becoming real, even though Hoyeol kept his old class level and job. The embarrassing character sheet may be his greatest advantage. Hoyeol reviews the improvement in his daily life and asks the dangerous question, what other talents did his middle school self give Grandfell? The answer is, naturally, almost everything. Grandfell is magically gifted enough to imitate most spells after seeing them once, and he is exceptionally intelligent. Apparently, teenage Hoyeol believed balance patches were for other people. He is physically talented too. Looking at the handwritten list, Hoyo realizes his younger self simply wrote down every good trait he could imagine and called it character design. Hoyo reaches for his phone to test the magic talent, only to find a long message from Shamanin. Gayan's new analyst wants to recruit the mysterious player who changed his life. The message includes a contract file, but Hoyeol is busy. Before properly considering the offer, Grandfell's hand sends the coldest possible reply, one perfectly punctuated word, number. Hoyeol returns to his experiment, searches player magic videos, and studies popular demonstrations, including lessons from star lecturer Lee Yun-seo. Now he is ready to test whether watching really is enough. Xiaoman's message had thanked Hoyeol and offered a place in South Korea's top guild. The instant no leaves Xiaoman staring at the screen, completely unprepared for aristocratic efficiency. Xiaoman and Taemin assume only one explanation makes sense. Another guild must have offered something better. Nobody considers that Hoyeol simply did not read the contract. Their confusion is understandable. Gain had offered a house, a car, every fee covered, and a 9.5 to 0.5 revenue split. Taemin cannot imagine anyone beating those terms. Since the Mage's Tower appeared in Seoul, foreign guilds have opened local branches, so Taemin imagines an overseas rival invading his territory. His recruitment problem has become a personal border crisis. Xiaoman points out that every top guild operates in Seoul, but Taemin insists even Gaon's executives never see contracts this generous. He refuses to lose Hoyeol without a fight. Taemin orders his brother to describe the mystery man so he can find him first. Xiaoman now faces the hardest analysis of his new career, explaining Hoyeol's entire vibe. Xiaoman stalls so badly that Taemin says he could describe a mythical animal more clearly. Oddly enough, that insult gives the new analyst exactly the comparison he needs. The comparison finally clicks. In Xiaoman's memory, Hoyeol looks like someone who walked straight out of a fantasy novel. Silver hair, black suit, and aristocratic confidence set to maximum. While Gaon's brothers imagine that fancy aristocrat, Hoyeol watches mage demonstrations and takes meticulous notes. The old Grandfell talent lets him see the structure hidden beneath every spell. The experiment succeeds beyond expectation. Hoyeol can read the fundamentals of magic and knows he could reproduce the spells as long as he has enough mana. Hoya celebrates the absurdly overpowered talent as the ultimate product of middle school syndrome. Grandfell, naturally, calls his own creator rude for saying so. With the talent confirmed, Hoyeol finally returns to the 12 unspent stat points. He intends to build for every possibility instead of committing to one narrow role. He invests 2 points in stamina, 2 in agility, and 7 in mana. The balanced physical boost keeps him alive, while mana opens the door to copied spells. The last point reminds him of Grandfell's ridiculous tragedy. Sole survivor of the Cloudy family, sworn demon hunter, and avenger of everyone a demon slaughtered. Hoyeol catches himself feeling sorry for Grandfell, even though he personally wrote every melodramatic detail. Sharing one body has made that fictional tragedy feel uncomfortably real. For both of their futures, Hoyeol places the final point in luck, raising it from 1 to 2. Technically, he has doubled his luck, which sounds much more impressive than it is. Hoyeol jokes that maybe tomorrow he will find a coin in the street. Instead, his new luck reopens the extinct demon hunter path with something far more valuable and dangerous, a class quest named Prologue of Counterattack. Hoyeol knows exactly how unusual this is. Since Archana became reality, even ordinary quests have become rare because so few NPCs exist here to issue them. A class quest chooses only one player from an entire class. The proof is Paladin rank 1 Guyver, Bohemian's guildmaster, whose selection made headlines. Receiving one can launch a player toward the highest rankings, which makes Hoyeol suspicious. A level 67 rookie should not be winning this particular cosmic lottery. There is only one logical answer. Since Ashan fell and every other demon hunter disappeared, Hoyeol truly is the last member of the class. The name Akshan sounds like a glorious holy fortress. Hoyeol remembers the reality, a demon hunter training post whose idea of a welcome was immediate suffering. The instructor announces that the admission ceremony is waiting at the summit. Their first task is to climb all 1,000 meters. Hospitality was not Akshan's strongest stat. That climb was only the beginning. Akshan quests repeated exhausting, seemingly pointless labor, while the instructor screamed for everyone to move faster. At the summit, recruits discover their new home, a ruined room with facilities that can only be described as technically present. Then the instructor announces that the cafeteria is all the way back where they started, and the quest tracker sends them down another 1,000-meter route. Hospitality was not Ashan's strongest stat. The Grandfell persona insists those ordeals were essential because demons invade the human mind. Hoyeol hears the logic of his teenage self and admits the syndrome was severe. Hoyeol leaves the quest details unopened. At Anti-Arcana United's Korean branch, former game developers monitor updates that will soon become reality. AE was created to reduce worldwide chaos and damage. It recruited former Arcana developers who understood the game better than anyone still trapped in normal office hours. Whenever an Arcana update approaches reality, those developers collect its information, analyze the danger, and warn players before the new content can start wrecking the real world. In less official language, the Korean branch is catastrophically overworked. One exhausted employee stretches, groans at his desk, and looks ready to submit a resignation to the entire concept of overtime. They suspect missing Cosmos CEO Raymond still manages the homepage and uploads every update himself. The only strategy available is refresh, refresh, and refresh again. The Arcana homepage finally refreshes. One employee spots the update, and the entire office freezes as the new information loads across every monitor. Panic detonates instantly. One worker tries to write a resignation, while another orders everyone to unplug the phones before reporters begin calling. Very calm professional crisis management. The update warns that a new demon is coming. It adds the Count family's fortress, territory, and outskirts, filled with bloodied bandits and beasts, ranging from level 220 to 250. The supporting army only gets worse. Count Ascura's soldiers are level 300, his knights are level 350, and his devotees are level 390. Apparently, the warm-up enemies already require a resume. Then the named boss appears, Count Ascura level 430. The update has saved its most unreasonable number for the vampire sitting at the center of all that red. The world's #1 player is only level 403. Ascura stands 27 levels above humanity's best, so even gathering several rankers would not make the raid remotely sensible. The analysts conclude that this would require an entire guild, perhaps an entire association. The update does not look designed to be cleared at all. Someone suggests asking the mage's tower for help, but its NPCs never intervene unless the tower itself is threatened. Magical superpower, apparently set to do not disturb. If the raid fails, the rupture will break open and the Count family's forces will pour into reality. The exhausted analysts can already picture the casualties. They curse Raymond for treating human lives like update notes. Every earlier challenge was at least possible. This one shatters the balance unless some miracle appears. Hoyeol receives this supposed miracle over tea and can only ask one miserable question: why? Akshan has apparently decided that surviving one demon earns him homework. Because the imp counted as his first demon kill, the class quest unlocks a repeat mission: train your weakened body. Today's menu is 20 kilometers, 1,000 push-ups, 500 pull-ups, and 300 burpees. At the grocery store, even holding the basket is a struggle. The cashier offers a bag, Grandfell refuses with perfect dignity, and Hoyeol privately wonders whether this training will kill him. Back home, his hands shake so badly that a sandwich becomes modern art. Grandfell calmly calls it a new presentation style, while Hoyeol begs himself to stop spilling ingredients. He completes every goal only because Grandfell's pride refuses to quit. Hoyeol goes to bed feeling accomplished and even looks forward to tomorrow's quest. That optimism survives for exactly one night. The next morning, Hoyeol is back on the pull-up bar with the same impossible routine. His face says what Grandfell's posture refuses to admit: this hurts everywhere. The next morning, Hoyeol reaches the pull-up bar and silently delivers his verdict: God, fucking, damn, it. Akshan apparently does not believe in recovery days. Then the word repeated, proves brutally literal. Every target resets, and one day becomes another. Grandfell drags the same body through the full routine without allowing a single skipped goal. A full week passes. Completing one daily goal only summons another, and Hoyeol begins to suspect Akshan's class quest was designed by someone who hated free time. He slumps beside two elderly neighbors exercising comfortably on the same deck. Only Grandfell's superhuman traits make this schedule possible, which is not especially comforting. After 7 completions, the weekly condition is finally fulfilled. Hoyeol braces for a reward like a healthy body, the sort of prize that sounds suspiciously like more exercise. Instead, the reward is permanent stats, 2 stamina and 2 dexterity. Stamina reaches 25, dexterity 30, while mana stays 18 and luck 2. Hoyeol is understandably thrilled. Items that raise one stat already cost millions of won, then rise to whatever a seller demands. This repeat quest just handed him 4 points without even leveling up. If the same reward returns every week, the awful routine is suddenly magnificent. Hoyeol claims he could do it 10 times a day, then immediately negotiates himself back down. A nearby news report interrupts the celebration. The Count family update released at Thursday is suddenly the only thing anyone is talking about. The broadcast identifies the new named monster as Count Ascura, ruler of the Count family's territory. His portrait alone looks like the update team declared war on sleep. Ascura is both a vampire and a demon, level 430, the strongest named monster ever recorded. Experts expect his rupture to become the hardest raid in history. AAU's Korean branch refuses to comment, which is understandable after the earlier office panic. Hoyeol switches off the report and stares at that impossible number, 430. Lee Hoyle's perfectly reasonable reaction is simple. How is anyone supposed to kill that? He has no intention of volunteering for a historical suicide mission. Then the top-ranking guilds make it official. They will not enter the raid. Their explanation is brutally simple. The risk is too high. Demons are especially dangerous because battles make them stronger and they inflict endless status abnormalities. Players normally want at least a 10-level advantage before challenging one. By that rule, even the level 403 champion is badly underqualified. Ascura is exactly the kind of monster Hoyeol would never dream of fighting without one small problem. The quest finally reveals its next objective, Hunt a Vampire. Count Ascura is the only known target, and Hoyeol can only curse Akshan as the level 430 silhouette looms over him. As Lee Hoyeol, he is terrified. Defeating an enemy 27 levels above the world's best player is not bravery. It sounds like a very efficient funeral plan. Yet his heartbeat is calmer than ever, because the body is responding as Grandfell. Hoyeol looks inward and asks what the proud demon hunter actually feels about this mission. Grandfell's answer is offended annoyance. These inferior creatures are threatening to interfere with his precious time, an unforgivable crime in the mind of history's fanciest aristocrat. He rises and declares that the demons will be heavily punished for that sin. Level difference, global panic, and common sense do not even enter Grandfell's calculation. Hoyeol can only clutch his head and admit he knew it. Grandfell absolutely wants to kill them, which means their shared body is heading straight toward Count Ascura. Hoyeol searches for Count Ascura and traces the vampire rupture all the way to Russia. Getting there normally would be a nightmare, so he settles on the Mage's Tower as his shortcut. The tower operates a giant portal that can send players almost anywhere. That one spell also explains why major foreign guilds bothered opening Korean branches near the tower in the first place. The route to the tower still looks like somebody lost a fight with a subway map. Hoyeol accepts the absurd chain of transfers because it is the fastest path to Russia. His sister warns that Russia is below freezing and begs him to wear a padded coat. Grandfell rejects that sensible idea, packs tea, and marches out in a suit instead. Fashion wins, body temperature files a complaint. Reporters crowd the Mage's Tower, waiting for Gaon to begin its Russian expedition. With the world's attention fixed on Ascura, every guild entrance has become breaking news. Garen arrives to a wall of cameras. Reporters immediately ask Namtamen whether he knows how to kill Ascura, why his guild came early, and whether he will share what they learn. Taemin admits he has no method for killing Count Ascura. That does not stop him. Gaon has never waited for a perfect answer before entering a rupture. Asked why Gaon is moving before everyone else, Tanen gives the honest answer: they intend to beat the other competitors. No noble camouflage required. Tiamat also refuses to share any discoveries with rivals. As far as he is concerned, guilds that watch from a safe distance have no right to demand Gaon's hard-earned information. Then Shining appears, and the press immediately pivots. Gaon may be Korea's pride, but the world's #1 guild has just walked into the same lobby. At their head is Lox, level 399, second in the global player ranking, and master of the first-ranked Shining Guild. That is the sort of introduction that makes an entire press pack forget how to blink. Shining reads Tamin's hostility as anxiety. Foreign branches are squeezing Gaon's position in Korea, so Tamin is betting everything on this expedition to prove his guild still belongs at the top. Inside Gaon, Tamin reassures analyst Nam Xiaomin that their preparations are enough. Xiaomin still worries because their improved offer to Hoyeol never received an answer before the update arrived. They suspect Hoyeol may raid anyway and hope to meet him at the tower. Somewhere nearby, their mystery recruit is indeed coming, just by public transport and pure stubbornness. On the bus, Hoyeol studies 100 magic videos and reduces every spell to 3 stages: inspect mana, interfere with it, then manifest the result. Grandfell apparently learns sorcery the way normal people watch tutorials. He tests the theory and produces a flame immediately. There is no chant, no registered skill, and barely any hesitation. Just a man casually discovering free-form magic between bus stops. The driver spots the fire and scolds him, so Hoyeol extinguishes it before frightening anyone. Grandfell calls this perfect control. The bus driver would probably call it one warning away from walking. His skill list still contains only natural enemy, weapon masteries, simultaneous shooting, and exorcism ritual. The new fire magic is nowhere on it, leaving Hoyeol to wonder whether he found a bug. Still suspicious of a system error, Hoyeol finally reaches the mage's tower. The place is packed with elite players, yet the level 67 demon hunter walks in like he owns the dress code. Near the portal, Hoyeol can actually sense its mana structure. More importantly, he feels he could reproduce the magic himself, and somehow the massive gateway seems easier than that tiny bus flame. Before he can investigate, a worker bumps him through the active gate. Across the lobby, Shirwalman catches one brief glimpse of silver hair and wonders if that was Hoyeol. Xiaoman turns, but Hoyeol is already gone. The analyst cannot confirm what he saw, and Gaon's briefing moves on before he can chase the possibility. Ascura's domain is a nested rupture. Hundreds of outskirts entrances guard roughly 30 territory entrances, and beyond those lies the fortress where the vampire himself waits. If the rupture breaks down, Ascura's entire castle could materialize in reality. That turns a difficult raid into a public disaster waiting for a countdown to hit 0. In Russia, streamer Kid Pell performs for his camera outside the rupture. He is ready for content, fame, and probably frostbite, but not for the sharply dressed stranger approaching behind him. Hoyeol says one word: move. Cadpiel interprets Grandfell's icy stare as a threat and jumps aside, convinced he has just met the world's most terrifying office worker. The truth is much less dramatic. Hoyeol only wants to keep moving because he is freezing. He even apologizes as he passes, although Grandfell's face does absolutely nothing to make that apology comforting. He enters the territory's outskirts alone. The recommended level is 240 to 270 and destruction sits at 9.7%. Hoyeol is level 67, which makes this plan look completely unreasonable. Elsewhere, another party races through the snowy rupture behind a red-haired warrior. Her guildmates struggle to keep pace while she charges ahead with all the subtlety of a runaway truck. She is Leonie Balusi, level 348, a top 100 player, Berserker-class fighter, and guildmaster of Berserker. In other words, she has the stats to back up every bit of that attitude. Lene also has one extremely noticeable habit. Nearly every sentence comes wrapped in furious profanity. Her guildmates barely react anymore, which tells you they have survived this exact storm many times before. Hoyeol enters the territory's outskirts, where the recommended level is 240 to 270, and the cold somehow makes Grandfell eager to begin hunting. Cozy is apparently a flexible concept. Then a level 230 bloodied wolf steps out of the snow. Hoyeol is only level 67, so the first enemy already has a 163 level head start. Fair matchmaking, naturally. Then natural enemy activates. The moment demons stand before him, Hoyle's fear disappears and his combat power surges, turning the supposed prey into the calmest person in the forest. Hoyle closes the distance and kills a wolf with his silver dagger. The Hunt of Vampire quest updates at once. The hunt has officially begun, even if Ascura is still several rupture layers away. Across the rupture, Leonie tears through another wolf pack while her guild follows. Dozens fall beneath Berserker's weapons, and Leonie keeps shouting enough furious profanity to make her seasoned guildmates flinch. After dozens of kills, a blonde Berserker member finally says something feels wrong. The wolves never slowed down, and the endless attack is starting to look unnatural. Linoe agrees. These mutts have no fear, as if they do not even understand the feeling. Her teammates initially dismiss the observation as another burst of Berserker intuition. She pushes the point. None of the wolves whimpered, fled, or reacted to pain while being hunted. Once the guild thinks back, Leonie's bad feeling suddenly sounds much less ridiculous. A howl suddenly cuts through the forest. This one sounds nothing like the wolves Berserker fought before. It is unmistakably frightened, proving that something ahead has finally taught them fear. Leonie decides there is only one way to learn what scared them, and orders everyone to follow. She races ahead before the rest of Berserker can finish objecting. The frightened howl leads straight to Hoyeol. He studies the tiny amount of mana inside an ordinary arrowhead, preparing to repeat the three-step process he discovered on the bus. He inspects, interferes, and manifests. The plain arrow becomes a blazing fire arrow, and one shot detonates through the wolves with far more force than his level has any business producing. Flames race through the wolf pack and turn the snowy forest orange. Hoyle's improvised fire arrow works far better than anyone his level has a right to expect. Leonie finally catches up and freezes. Hoyeol is still calmly cutting through burning wolves in a suit, which explains the terrified howls much better than anything her guild expected. Hoyeol calmly pours tea among the flames. Berserker cannot decide whether he is brave, insane, or simply unaware that dramatic entrances usually require something warmer than dress shoes. Because of the suit and his silence, Leonie's group mistakes him for a rupture streamer or civilian who got left behind. Nobody yet realizes the stranger caused the inferno around him. Lenny tells the supposed civilian to leave immediately. Hoyle does not answer or even look impressed, and being ignored starts testing the patience of a woman whose class is literally Berserker. Before Leonie can escalate the conversation, more enemies appear around the guild. The tea dispute will have to wait. Berserker is suddenly trapped inside a full ambush. Level 230 bloodied bandits burst from the trees, joining the remaining wolves. Their numbers erase Berserker's advantage and force every guild member into close combat at once. Berserker fights back, but the attackers keep pressing from every direction. Leonie can protect individuals for a moment, not the entire formation forever. Leonie throws herself into the thickest part of the battle. Even with her level and raw strength, the endless crowd is forcing her to react instead of control the field. She saves a guildmate from a killing blow, but that rescue opens another gap. The monsters are steadily turning Berserker's tight formation into scattered little emergencies. More bandits close in before the guild can regroup. For the first time, Leonie's party looks less like a top guild and more like a target being slowly squeezed shut. The guild is completely surrounded, and Leonie finally realizes the quiet stranger is still standing inside the danger zone. She warns him again because one more body is the last thing they need. Hoyle watches the battlefield over his tea and reaches a very Grandfell conclusion. This seems doable. Everyone else sees disaster. He sees a convenient practical exam. The bandits charge directly at Hoyle, apparently eager to punish his confidence. He does not draw a weapon. Instead, he turns his attention to the mana inside his thermos. Leonie turns just in time to see him casting. Whatever the stranger is doing, it does not resemble the clean activation of an ordinary system skill. Hoyle inspects and interferes with the available mana. A conventional skill large enough to protect everyone would cost more mana than he has and probably knock him unconscious. That contradiction confirms his suspicion. The magic he discovered is not a registered system skill at all. If the system is not setting the scale or cost, Hoyeol may be able to shape the result himself. The gathered mana erupts upward and the first section of a gigantic barrier begins taking shape. Hoyeol is no longer making a small trick. He is changing the battlefield itself. Leonie stares as the spell takes shape between her guild and the attackers. The underleveled civilian has officially become the strangest and most powerful person on her battlefield. A gigantic stone wall erupts across the forest, shielding the entire guild and cutting off the ambush. One improvised spell has changed the geography of the fight. Leonie asks whether that was alchemy. Hoyeol corrects her with absolute confidence. It was not a skill, but magic itself. Apparently, Grandfell has decided the system's rulebook is merely a suggestion. The stone wall leaves Berserker speechless. Hoyeol repeats the key point. This was not a system skill at all, but magic he controlled directly by manipulating mana. Hoyeol explains that he can inspect an object's mana, interfere with it, and change its form. The result resembles alchemy more than ordinary spellcasting, even if Grandfell insists on calling it magic itself. The wall protects only one flank. When enemies rush the open side, Leonie realizes Hoyle's shelter has not ended the ambush, it has simply redirected the fight. Hoyeol accepts the interruption with painful dignity and postpones tea time. For Grandfell, delaying tea is apparently the true sacrifice. Fighting enemies hundreds of levels above him is merely what comes next. A Berserker member is about to take a fatal hit when an arrow flashes past Leonie. Hoyeol has switched from dagger work to an ordinary bow without missing a beat. The arrow lands at exactly the right moment and saves him. The rescued fighter cannot even identify the archer because nobody in Berserker knew Hoyeol could use a bow. The fire arrow detonates through the enemy line and burns a path straight through the attackers. Apparently, the gigantic wall was not Hoyle's only impossible trick today. Leonie's mental classification system collapses. Hoyeol looks like an archer, casts like a mage, and reshapes matter like an alchemist, so the honest answer to his class is apparently yes. With Hoyeol supporting them, Berserker wipes out the remaining bandits and wolves. The guild checks the area, finds no more enemies, and confirms the outskirts entrance is clear. When Ni studies Hoyeol more carefully, he entered alone in formal clothes, never seemed tired, answered nothing properly, and still saved every one of them when the battle went bad. She wonders whether he is an unknown ranker and, after one embarrassing glance, admits he is handsome. Leonie's pride then remembers he ignored her, so gratitude gets stuck in traffic. Leonie catches Hoyeol looking at her direction and immediately panics. She was not staring because she liked him, obviously. She was conducting highly professional battlefield research. Very convincing. She decides he must want to share tea and prepares to offer him some. The entire romantic misunderstanding exists only in Leonie's head, which is about to make the next sentence hurt much more. Hoyeol flatly tells her he has no tea to give. Leonie's imagined moment dies on impact, and Grandfell walks away without realizing he just started a personal feud over one tea bag. Outside, news drones circle the Russian ruptures while Today Arcana covers the update live. The world is watching because this is the highest level boss event Arcana has produced so far. Today Arcana explains the progression rule. All 200 outskirts entrances must be cleared before the Count's territory can open, and only then can players reach the fortress. Shining, Gaean, and the other major guilds are already competing inside. The first guild to clear an entrance earns the first clear title and instant global fame, so everyone wants that headline. The broadcast director expects Shining to finish first and positions his crew accordingly. He has no idea the decisive footage is developing at Berserker's entrance instead. An assistant suddenly charges through the tent. One rupture has turned blue. Blue means cleared, and the first outskirts victory has arrived before the director's favorite guild even exits. The monitoring video shows Leonie and Berserker leaving the blue rupture, so the crew credits the 32nd ranked guild with the first clear. Hoyeol's contribution is still invisible from outside. Then an assistant notices a Korean man walking beside the European guild. The mystery deepens. Who is the perfectly clean stranger, and why does everyone else look like they survived a wood chipper? Reporters race toward the new first clear group. but Hoyeol steps forward before the crowd can settle. The most important interview of the night is about to meet Grandfell's extremely limited patience. A reporter asks about Hoyeol's relationship with Berserker and what happened inside. Hoyeol answers with one terrifying word again, move. The poor man immediately apologizes without knowing why. Hoyeol bolts through the snow because he has reached the limit of his patience with the cold, not the press. Reporters chase him while Leonie's guild is left holding the microphones. The press congratulates Leonie, but she gives them a hard no comment. She knows the first clear does not belong to Berserker alone, and she is in no mood to accept credit for Hoyeol's work. Leonie tells the reporters to interview that bastard instead, then finally blurts out why Hoyeol pushed through the entire battle and cleared the entrance first. Apparently her gratitude still sounds like a threat. Only after the rant does Leonie notice Hoyeol is gone. A guildmate explains that he exited before everyone else, leaving fame and the first clear interview behind without a word. Then she hears the final detail. Hoyeol said he was going home for a bit. Leonie can process monsters, magic walls, and fire arrows, but casual commuting in the middle of this raid finally breaks her. The reporters cannot believe Hoyeol simply left. Leonie is even more furious because he did most of the work, ignored the fame attached to a first clear, and vanished before her reluctant compliment could land. Another rupture turns blue, announcing the second clear. This time, Gowan emerges, bloody but successful, and the waiting media immediately swims toward Korea's highest-ranked guild. Reporters chase Namtaman for an interview while others ask Leonie about finishing first. She gives them one tantalizing line. Gaon was not the only good guild in Korea. Back at Gaon's camp, Taemin and Cheolmin replay Leonie's remark. Her wording sounds less like praise for Berserker and more like a message that she met an exceptional Korean player. Taemin takes the comment personally and nearly sacrifices his ramen to wounded pride. Cheolmin keeps thinking instead because one Korean better than Gyeon fits a very specific recent memory. They rule out Mythology, the 41st ranked guild, because its members are still inside another rupture. The list of plausible Korean candidates suddenly becomes very short. Cheolmin clearly has one person in mind, Hoyeol, the level 67 demon hunter Gowan failed to recruit. An exceptional Korean player appearing from nowhere suddenly feels a lot less mysterious. Hoyeol, meanwhile, is already home enjoying a hot shower. His inner self celebrates the warmth like a rescued castaway, while Grandfell finds the display deeply embarrassing. A nap is immediately cancelled when Grandfell notices dust. He changes into cleaning gear and attacks the apartment with such intensity that Lee Hoyle's inner voice begs the maniac to rest. Grandfell also cooks a complete meal from scratch. After eating and cleaning, Hoyeol discovers he no longer feels sleepy at all, which is convenient for training and terrible news for his sanity. He finally checks the raid rewards. The main item is a level 180 badly sharpened saber, useful eventually but far beyond what he can equip right now. The experience is much better. Hoyeol jumps 19 levels from 67 to 86. His screen shows stamina 25, agility 30, mana 31, and luck 2, with small bonuses on the physical stats. Freeform magic used less mana than comparable skills and produced better results, which carried Hoyeol through the raid. For an improvised weapon, it has already outperformed most of his registered kit. The drawback appears once the excitement fades. Spent mana returns painfully slowly. Hoyeol has discovered an excellent new weapon, but its fuel tank refills at the speed of cold tea. He owns no equipment that improves mana recovery, and Demon Hunter offers few class benefits or related skills. His strongest new weapon therefore comes with a painfully small fuel tank. Hoyeol remembers the short-haired dual dagger fighter and her guild. He knows their help mattered and wishes he had learned their names, if only so he could thank them properly. Grandfell interprets every weakness as a personal failure to correct. Underestimate him, and he proves himself. Overestimate him, and he turns the expectation into reality. Humility was apparently never installed. The next target is the Count family's territory, so Hoyeol decides magic alone is not enough. Grandfell gets up to train his body and improve his close-range combat before returning. For a model, Hoyeol chooses Leonie's explosive dual dagger movements, though he still does not know her name. Copying that short-haired fighter should give his undertrained body a practical combat pattern. His repeat quest supplies a modest warm-up. Run 20 kilometers, perform 1,000 push-ups, 500 pull-ups, and 300 burpees. Grandfell calls these basics. Lee Hoyeol calls for help. Training still waits until the dishes are spotless. Grandfell washes up first, then heads out while Hoyle's inner self asks the increasingly urgent question, when exactly are they going to sleep? Late that night, Hoyeol begins his 20-kilometer run in a suit. Grandfell maintains perfect posture while the exhausted voice in his head quietly requests unconsciousness. A late-night broadcast reports that 95% of the outskirts have been cleared. The Count's territory should open soon, meaning the global raid is almost ready for its second layer. Then the emergency update lands. The unopened territory's destruction rate has suddenly jumped to 60%. Analysts have no explanation, and a layer nobody can yet enter is already approaching collapse. Gan is stunned. Stronger monsters can shorten a rupture's remaining time, but nobody understands how the inner monsters became stronger before players even reached them. Jeoman promises to investigate, while every major camp reaches the same uncomfortable conclusion: there must be a mechanism the world's best analysts have missed. Today, Arcana's crew demands an explanation, but even analysts from the advanced guilds have no answer. Everyone agrees there must be a cause. Finding it is the part nobody can manage. The nightmare scenario is clear. Monsters pour out, players are overwhelmed, and civilians in the area die. The event is no longer just a race for titles, the surrounding region is on the line. The news confirms that the unopened territory passed 60% destruction in under a day, an unprecedented event that even the major guild analysts cannot explain. Only a demon hunter with Akshan's records can connect the clues. Hoyle stops treating the broadcast as speculation and hurries home to act before the next layer opens. Akshan's records explain that vampires share their authority through blood. Ascura granted part of his power to the monsters stationed throughout the outskirts. When those monsters died, the borrowed authority returned to its owner. Every successful outskirts clear was quietly giving Ascura back the power he had distributed. Ascura likely redistributed that recovered authority to the monsters in the Count's territory. Their sudden power increase explains why destruction accelerated before the layer even opened. That creates an even worse chain reaction. If players clear the territory and return its authority too, Ascura's fortress may begin breaking down immediately afterward. Grandfell strips Ascura of his title in spirit. A true count, he declares, would never reclaim what he had granted to others, so Ascura is unfit to be called nobility. He vows to judge the vampire for dirtying the honor of the aristocracy. Lee Hoyeol knows the speech is painfully dramatic, but the promise underneath it is completely serious. Hoyle grabs more tea and asks one last practical question about sleep. Grandfell's answer is merciless. He can sleep once he dies. Healthy work-life balance remains undefeated. The Count's territory finally opens, recommended for levels 350 to 400, with only 5 hours left before breakdown. Hoyeol is level 86, but Natural Enemy and his new magic have never cared much for recommended numbers. At 3048 in the morning, streamer Park Regang greets his tiny but determined audience from Russia. He has planted himself directly outside the Count's territory rupture, chasing the biggest broadcast of his career. The situation is already ugly. Destruction has reached 70%. Fewer than 5 hours remain, and major guilds are gathering despite the hour. Sleep has officially lost to the apocalypse. Huiguang explains the new bottleneck. The outskirts had 200 entrances, but the Count territory has only about 30, while the fortress entrance count remains unknown. Fewer entrances force multiple guilds into the same rupture. Experience and loot are divided by contribution, so cooperation comes bundled with a very sharp temptation to outscore everyone beside you. Huaigang spots Gayan and follows analyst Nam Shulmen, hoping the 5th-ranked guild will provide good footage. Nam Tamen is less delighted to see one more camera trailing the team. Shulman accepts that competition is inevitable and maps the safest route. Shining went north against Unified under Heaven, so Gain wants to avoid that first versus second-ranked collision. the south is crowded too. Berserker has paired with Second Son and Bohemian. After Leonie's surprise first clear, other guilds are suddenly much more careful about sharing a rupture with her. Gaon chooses the eastern rupture, and Wigang scrambles after them before his remaining viewers escape to a bigger channel. The route looks open for exactly one more moment. The newcomers are Inazuma, Japan's 4th-ranked guild. Their guildmaster walks forward smiling, clearly thrilled that Gaon chose the exact same rupture. He is Hisagi Kazuma, level 376, 6th in the player ranking, Magic Spearman and Inazuma Guildmaster. His stat card is impressive. His ability to be annoying arrives without needing one. Hisagi mocks Gaon's Korean branch strategy, boasting that flying to Russia was easier than building locally. Tamin grips his sword while Hisagi laughs straight through the insult. Then Hisagi says Gaon is worthless. That ends any chance of a polite cue for the entrance and gives Tamin exactly the excuse his temper was waiting for. The two guildmasters meet weapon to weapon, and every nearby camera locks on. Korea versus Japan, rank 5 versus rank 4. The media instantly knows it has found the night's easiest headline. Streamers and reporters swarm the Eastern Gate, shouting about Gaon versus Inazuma and Shining versus Unified Under Heaven. Every rivalry is now live, and the crowd smells a career-making broadcast. Wigang realizes his tiny channel has stumbled into the biggest matchup available. He throws himself after Gaon, chasing the exclusives before the larger crews can crowd him out. Choman initially urges restraint because destruction is the real threat. Then he remembers that yielding would make 5th-ranked Gaon look weak beside 4th-ranked Inazuma, especially in front of the entire world. The personal rankings make it worse. Hisagi is 6th, while Tamin is 11th. Add the Korea-Japan rivalry, and Choman's careful analyst brain quietly catches fire. Gaon reached the rupture first, so Choman gives a wonderfully objective order: crush the competition. Tamin's hesitation disappears, and Gaon's guildmaster surges forward with all the subtlety of a launched missile. Today Arcana confirms the Eastern matchup, 5th-ranked Gaon of Korea against 4th-ranked Inazuma of Japan. The ranking gap and national rivalry make it the broadcast's hottest contest. In the North, 1st-ranked Shining faces 2nd-ranked Unified Under Heaven. That rupture is effectively a direct match for the top spot in the global guild hierarchy. In the South, Berserker appears at rank 30th beside 7th-ranked Second Son and 3rd-ranked Bohemian. The lineup is stacked enough to make Berserker's sudden place in the world rankings feel very real. With destruction already at 80%, fear spreads across the world. Yet inside one ruined territory, Hoyeol calmly drinks tea alone, looking less panicked than someone waiting for a delayed train. The mystery deepens. The entry card labels Hoyeol's destination only as Rupture. He is the sole entrant, but Grandfell treats the unknown dungeon like a private tea room. His calm hides a real concern. Running out of mana in the last raid was dangerous. He needs a far more efficient way to use magic before Ascura's stronger servants find him. Inspired by the alchemy skill, Hoyeol develops magic that reforms objects into chosen shapes. He turns loose rocks into a teacup and table, making battlefield furniture through pure mana control. The method works, but ornate decorations consume much more mana. Grandfell's insistence on elegant tableware is literally making the spell less practical, which may be the fanciest tactical problem imaginable. A group of level 300 Count Ascura's soldiers finally approaches. Hoyeol recognizes the unnatural authority inside them as power, their vampire master granted through blood. Instead of overpowering that authority, Hoyeol reaches toward it and targets the condition holding the soldiers together. This time, his magic will remove a change rather than create one. Hoyeol calls the empowered soldiers pathetic and releases the spell. Their bodies begin cracking apart before they can bring their weapons down on him. The borrowed forms collapse as he commands them to return to dust. By restoring the monsters to their original state, Hoyeol dismantles the entire formation instead of fighting each soldier. The restoration surges through the street, shattering every servant in its path. Hoyeol has found a direct counter to monsters, created from Ascura's shared authority. Almost no mana is consumed. Grandfell names the technique reversal magic with great satisfaction. while Lee Hoyeol's inner voice asks whether every useful trick truly needs such a dramatic title. Far deeper in the Count's territory, more armored servants patrol ruined streets. Unlike Hoyle's route, this section still holds organized groups of Ascura's forces. One soldier suddenly reacts to an approaching presence. Heavy footsteps close in through the ruins, signaling that another raid party has reached the city. Gan reaches the ruined city and cuts through Count Ascura's level 300 soldiers, with Tannen leading from the front. The clash looks fierce, but this supposedly massive rupture is offering strangely little resistance. When the fighting stops, Tommen looks around and realizes something is wrong. He has killed only about 10 soldiers. For a city this large, that number is absurdly low. A Gaian scout checks the opposite route and reports that Inazuma's side looks exactly the same. Two rival guilds took different paths, yet neither found anything resembling a proper army. An Inazuma scout confirms it from her side. They have not even killed 10 soldiers since entering. Whatever emptied these streets affected both routes, not just Gaijins. Then Hisagi strolls over, calls Tommen by name, and jokes about how peaceful the ruins feel. After their entrance showdown, that friendly tone is almost more suspicious than the empty streets. Taemin immediately suspects Inazuma followed him and asks why Hisagi is acting like they are friends. The friendly alliance lasts roughly 3 seconds. A personal best, honestly. Hisagi complains that Tommen hates him for no reason. Tommen calmly replies that Hisagi makes him want to kill him, and Chamen's call interrupts before diplomacy can get any healthier. Chiomen says his dungeon analysis is nearly complete, but video cannot be sent from inside. He needs Taemin's exact location, and Taemin reports ruins that look like a square. The word square jolts Chiomen. He repeats it, a city square? While Tommen confirms both guilds are standing there. That single detail snaps the dungeon analysis into place. Showman's voice jumps from focused to terrified. He orders Tommen to leave the square immediately, with no time left to explain exactly what kind of trap they entered. Shiomen's warning kills the argument instantly. Tommen and Hisagi both sense something nearby and turn toward the same direction. So much for that wonderfully peaceful route. The enemy window supplies the bad news. These are Count Ascura's knights, each level 350. Gaon and Inazuma were not exploring an empty route. They walk straight into the elite force. The knights charge from every direction before either guild can regroup. Tommen is driven back under the assault, leaving Gaon and Inazuma trapped together inside Ascura's killing ground. The Eastern Gate delivers a nasty surprise. These are not ordinary soldiers, but level 350 Count's cavalry knights, armored riders, built to turn open ground into a very expensive graveyard. War cavalry floods the ruins until Gaon and Inazuma are ringed from every direction. Their guild rivalry suddenly feels less important than avoiding a synchronized trampling. Hisagi snaps everyone into formation and orders them ready for battle. The jokes are over. The Eastern raid has become a survival problem before either guild reaches the real objective. Tommen reads the terrain and hates the answer. Cavalry hits several times harder on flat ground, and even sending the tankers first would only buy them lethal injuries. Hisagi calls Tommen by name and reluctantly asks him to guard his back. Nothing built international friendship quite like a murder horse crisis. The warning comes immediately. Another mounted unit is charging from behind. With riders closing from both directions, the two guilds have nowhere safe to pivot. Chomen's analysis reaches Tommen in time. Unified Under Heaven was mauled by the same ambush, so he orders a retreat toward a narrow alley, and Tommen finally agrees. The cavalry takes that retreat as an invitation and surges forward at full speed. On this open street, one clean charge could flatten both guilds. Before the riders connect, layers of blue magic circles bloom across the battlefield. Nobody in either guild casts them, which is usually where the interesting trouble begins. Mana races through the ground and drags combatants away from the charge line. The cavalry's perfect formation starts breaking before anyone understands who intervened. Stone erupts into towering pillars, creating the narrow lanes Showman wanted out of nowhere. The trapped riders snarl between them while the players stare at their unsolicited architecture. Tommen looks up through the dust, trying to understand who could reshape an entire battlefield this quickly. Whoever did it is clearly operating far beyond either guild's expectations. Tahaman and Hisagi turn toward the newcomer together. For once, the rival guildmasters share exactly the same expression, confused, suspicious, and slightly offended by how effortless that looked. The man behind the miracle is Hoyeol, standing in a spotless suit as though he wandered into the rupture between office meetings. Tommen recognizes him instantly. 5 minutes earlier, Park Hwagang restarted his tiny stream after a bathroom delay and promised to chase Gaeon. Heroic timing was unavailable, so honesty had to carry the broadcast. With only 12 people watching, Hwagang activates a tracking effect that reveals footprints from 5 minutes ago. The trail points toward Gaeon and, conveniently, toward content. His chat reminds him that larger streamers already have the guild battles covered. Then a familiar boom rolls across the ruins, loud enough to make even the mockery stop. A 4,000 won donation dares Hwag to investigate, and he sprints toward the noise with his camera raised. Fear loses another argument to rent money. Back at the fight, Tanin and Hisagi study the stone maze cutting across the battlefield. This is far beyond one defensive wall. Someone redesigned the entire engagement. Fallen cavalry and shattered formations lie between pillars all over the ruins. The spell did not defeat every rider, but it erased the flat terrain that made them terrifying. The guild members stare at Hoyeol's back and quietly ask what kind of monster he is. Fair question. He just solved their tactical disaster without requesting a party invite. Even worse for their pride, Hoyeol raised all that stone without chanting. Hisagi watches the mana around him and wonders how deep that impossible reserve goes. Hoyeol is wearing slacks, dress shoes, and no visible battle equipment. Hisagi cannot decide whether the stranger is a mage, a lunatic, or both with excellent tailoring. The remaining cavalry squeezes between the pillars, forced into narrow files instead of one devastating charge. Their strongest advantage has officially become a traffic problem. The stone maze keeps slowing the horses and separating their riders. Hoyeol has turned a lethal cavalry formation into bite-sized targets for two very motivated guilds. Taemin activates Berserk, the barbarian exclusive skill that massively raises attack power while dulling incoming damage. Subtle? No. Extremely useful when surrounded by armored horsemen? Absolutely. Powered by Berserk, Taemin crashes into the front rider and tears open the stalled formation. Gaeon follows his lead before the cavalry can recover its momentum. The pillars create the opening Hisagi was waiting for. He orders everyone to kill the remaining knights, and both guilds finally attack the same problem instead of each other. Gaeon and Inazuma pour through the narrow lanes, cutting riders down one cluster at a time. Their temporary cooperation is messy, loud, and surprisingly effective. Hwagang reaches the battlefield just as the counterattack erupts. One look at the carnage tells him his tiny stream has accidentally found the knight's real headline. His camera finds Hoyeol, and Hoyeol and Samiz the suited stranger is an absurdly powerful support mage. The audience rises to 132 while chat immediately starts arguing about his class. Hoyeol raises another pillar directly beneath a mounted knight, lifting horse and rider out of the fight. He is not merely supporting the guilds, he is controlling the whole board. Then he invoked reversal magic. Blue mana coils around his hand as Hoyeol prepares to return the altered battlefield stone to its original condition. The reshaped stone collapses back into massive chunks, dropping the trapped cavalry and smashing their formation again. Hwagang's chat responds with the universal tactical analysis. What? Hwagang's audience finally understands that Hoyeol has been fighting the cavalry largely on his own. He stands over another fallen knight while the stream fails to name his class. Hoyeol examines a silver dagger with full durability. It is usable, but Grandfell's expensive standards object to wasting even 1 point on an ordinary strike. He refuses to wear down the weapon and starts searching for a cleaner method. Saving the world is important, obviously, but repair fees are apparently the true final boss. A possibility clicks, interfere with the dagger's mana, change its form, use that temporary weapon, then restore the original. If durability resets too, the exploit is beautiful. Hoyeol tests the logic against his earlier teacup experiment. A transformed rock gained teacup durability, but restoring it produced an ordinary rock with no durability value at all. That precedent confirms the loophole. Restore to original state does not merely change the shape back, it returns the object to its original condition. He reshapes the dagger into a silver awl with only one durability point, but exceptional critical damage. It is fragile, vicious, and designed for exactly one very bad moment. Hoyeol spends that single point on a cavalry knight and lands the critical strike. The enemy drops instantly, and several level-up notices stack across his vision. He restores the awl and the silver dagger returns at full durability. Hoyeol celebrates internally, unlimited shape changes, lethal attacks, and no repair bill. Grandfell has discovered budgeting. With the last riders down, Gaon and Inazuma praise their teams and begin collecting loot. The battlefield is finally quiet enough to hear everyone pretending this was under control. Hoyeol ignores the celebration and calmly drinks tea from his improvised cup. Around him, exhausted players stare because apparently apocalypse etiquette includes a beverage break. Tommen already knows what his analyst is about to say. Ganon needs Hoyeol. Seeing him in person only strengthens that decision, especially now that Inazuma has seen him too. Hisaki reaches the same conclusion and smiles across the battlefield. The cavalry alliance is over. The next contest is recruiting the silver-haired man before the other guild can. While the guilds silently calculate offers, Hoyeol keeps sipping tea, completely unaware that he has started an international bidding war by standing there and being absurd. A nervous voice finally pulls Hoyeol away from his cup. He turns toward the approaching stranger with the same grave expression he used while rewriting the battlefield. Huiyang introduces himself to Hoyeol with a trembling smile and keeps the phone pointed forward. This is either career-making journalism or the shortest interview of his life. He asks Hoyeol for an interview and the audience explodes from 12 people to 68 times 923. Hoyeol answers with an unreadable stare while chat collectively loses its mind. Hwagang's audience finally gets a clear look at Hoyeol. They recognize the silver-haired man from the battlefield and quickly conclude he caused the explosions and erased the missing soldiers. Raiders rush Hoyeol with praise and questions, asking whether he is Korean or Japanese and whether he belongs to a guild. One eager Inazuma member even tries recruiting him immediately. Grandfell answers the entire crowd with one frosty command: move. The bloody players part instantly, proving that impeccable posture can apparently work as crowd control. Tommen steps forward, introduces himself as Gaon's guildmaster, and says he has heard plenty about Hoyeol. He also mentions the recruitment message Gaon sent earlier. Hoyeol remembers Gaon's offer, but Grandfell focuses on the sloppy introduction instead. With no proper formality in sight, his patience begins freezing faster than the Russian air. Grandfell refuses every question and orders everyone out of his way. Tommen, the raiders, and Hwagang's rapidly growing audience are left staring after the world's sternest press conference. The mysterious player becomes instant headline material. Reports also celebrate Shining's first clear, Locks reaching level 400, and Jesse Hines contributing most to the victory. At Shining's base camp, Locke silently replays Hoyle's strange performance. The world's second-ranked player cannot identify what he witnessed, which immediately makes everyone else nervous. Camilla, Shining's 7th-ranked archer, cheerfully admits she has no idea what Hoyeol did. Apparently top 10 credentials still come with permission to shrug. Dimitri, ranked 8th, finally explodes because Lox keeps asking the same impossible question. Shining's strongest officers all agree on one highly technical answer: nobody knows. Dimitri complains that the emergency meeting has already ruined a hard-won date. Lox barely reacts, still far more interested in Hoyeol than his officer's romantic disaster. Camilla watches Hoyle's recording and calls him cool. She cannot understand Lox's concern, so she suggests the simplest solution: scout the mysterious player directly. Dimitri decides Lox must be jealous because Hoyeol stole the attention from Shining's first-place clear. It is a bold theory, delivered with absolutely no fear for workplace survival. Lox dismisses the idea. Shining already receives endless attention, and he assumes the media is simply hyping a fresh face for clicks, though his continued staring says otherwise. After the others leave, Lox remains alone with Hoyle's recording. He studies the blue energy and reconstructed terrain in silence, unwilling to dismiss the mystery just yet. Jesse Hines arrives and offers a sharper verdict. Hoyeol's technique resembles magic, but it is not ordinary magic. The level 397 mage is still completing her class quest. Lox is startled because Jessie never calls anything cool. Her unusual praise confirms that Hoyeol has caught the attention of Shining's most gifted mage. Jessie studies Hoyle's strange magic with a faint, intrigued smile. Coming from a level 309 Devon mage chasing the peak of her class, that quiet interest is practically a standing ovation. At Berserker's camp, Leonie loudly reminds everyone that she knew Hoyeol was extraordinary. Victory has made her warmer in spirit, if not remotely calmer in volume. Her guildmates beg Leonie to calm down and put the blanket back on before she catches a cold. She threatens to wreck everything, which is apparently Berserker's version of gratitude. Inazuma reacts more strategically. Hisagi Kazuma studies the same silver-haired man and decides Hoyeol is too valuable to leave unattached, or, worse, available to a rival. Hisachi orders his subordinate to bring Hoyeol onto Inazuma's side no matter what. The subordinate accepts confidently, unaware that Grandfell treats recruitment pitches like minor diplomatic offenses. Today, Arcana returns with the global raid update. The Count family's territory has been cleared, pushing the battle toward its final and most dangerous lair. Shining defeated Unified Under Heaven and claimed first place in the territory. Lox's guild remains the favorite, but the final fortress still waits beyond the snow. Only Count Ascura's fortress remains. Destruction sits at 72% as players from every nation gather, knowing the last entrance may decide Russia's survival. The base camps tighten with fear as exhausted raiders prepare to enter again. Nobody needs a speech about the risk. Every weapon check says enough. If the fortress rupture collapses, Ascura's domain will materialize in Russia. The projected destruction is brutal enough to turn one failed raid into a national catastrophe. A crimson beam marks another completed entrance while the world wishes the raiders luck. The fortress phase is close and every camp is watching the countdown. Hoyeol is already home, freshly showered and watching the coverage on his phone. The commentators choose his formal suit as their newest mystery to solve. Experts emphasize that Hoyeol entered completely unarmed, wearing only a long coat and suit. To them, surviving like that must require extraordinary hidden equipment. The speculation grows into a secret mana accessory and a hidden clearing method. Every analyst confidently builds a theory from one missing detail. Hoyeol owns almost nothing useful. Hoyeol knows the less glamorous truth. He simply had no proper equipment to wear. A global mystery is born from an empty wardrobe. Grandfell would probably call that elegance. Rupture specialist Park Nambong credits Hoyeol with recognizing the knight's mobility and changing the terrain. He says that quick judgment effectively saved Gaeon and Inazuma. The experts even interpret Hoyeol's retreat as considerate support, letting the guilds shine afterward. In reality, he was simply out of mana and had no second miracle available. Hoyeol decides being called considerate is better than being called a jerk. With public relations accidentally handled, he turns to the loot from his solo route. His first rare item is a necklace imbued with the Blood's Curse. Its effect is sealed by a demon vampire's curse, so purification is required before its true ability appears. Cursed equipment like this is called a devil's item. Purification grants a random effect, making every necklace a magical loot box with truly awful repair costs. Hoyeol spots another option on his sparse skill list. Exorcism Ritual offers a proper demon hunter method for using the cursed necklace instead of paying to purify it. Exorcism Ritual is one of only 2 exclusive demon hunter skills. By offering the cursed item, Hoyeol can invite its demon directly into his own mind. Normally, the ritual attacks only the demon without harming its possessed host, exactly as it spared Shawolman. An offering changes the skill into a far more personal confrontation. With the necklace as an offering, Hoyeol can drag its demon into his consciousness. The process resembles the mental status abnormalities demons inflict on humans. A weak mentality stat could let the summoned demon possess him instead. Hoyeol accepts the danger because fighting inside his own consciousness should heavily favor Grandfell's monstrous willpower. Before the ritual can begin, Hoyeol's phone rings. The caller is Nam Chiomin, Gaeon's analyst, whose timing immediately makes him wonder what that painfully awkward meeting has unleashed. His imagination supplies the worst answer, Showoman and Tamin furious over the live humiliation and threatening a lawsuit. Hoyeol wisely decides not to let Grandfell answer aloud. He tries typing a polite request asking Gowan not to sue. Grandfell takes control of the message, and Hoyle's carefully planned diplomacy begins shrinking toward one dangerous word. The final message contains only troublesome. Shiolman and Temeni stare at the phone, instantly reminded of Grandfell's earlier one-word rejection. Diplomatic progress remains extremely measurable. Cholman explains that he only wanted to apologize for the informal approach and make Hoyeol a serious offer. Tolman replays the encounter to understand what went wrong. The recording shows strangers shouting over one another about Hoyeol's nationality, guild, and identity. Tommen finally sees why Grandfell judged the entire approach as hopelessly informal. Hoyeol had seen a mob shouting like merchants at a farmer's market, not a formal recruitment meeting. Gyeon's brothers reluctantly admit his complaint was painfully fair. Tommen notices Hoyle's eyebrows trembling in the recording and realizes he was suppressing real anger. Cholman assumes mana exhaustion made the mysterious player unusually irritable. Hoyeol will not answer, so Tommen shells the recruitment problem. Count Ascura matters more, and the fortress is already nearing its critical threshold. Cholman finishes Gowan's secret fortress report at 83% destruction. He estimates they can rest for roughly 10 minutes before entering, a very short vacation by any standard. The base camp suddenly shakes before that rest can begin. Phones, furniture, and exhausted players rattle as the ground bucks beneath them without warning. Tommen looks up in alarm as the shaking intensifies. It feels like an earthquake, but the rupture's timing makes that explanation far too comforting. Urgent news reaches Cholmin. The Count family's fortress has suddenly broken down. The failure arrived while destruction was only in the 80% range, far earlier than predicted. Ascura's fortress begins materializing amid fire and violent energy. Russian authorities order civilians to evacuate immediately as the impossible castle forces itself into reality. The collapsed fortress appears directly near the base camps, leaving more than 200 casualties. Raiders who expected 10 minutes of rest now face a battlefield outside the gate. The United States and Europe urge Russia to close its borders while surviving players scramble for orders. Tommen and Cholmin can only stare at the disaster forming around them. The fully materialized fortress towers over the ruined ground, wrapped in purple energy and guarded by demonic statues. The final dungeon is no longer safely contained inside a rupture. Hoyeol calmly confirms that the fortress really did collapse. While everyone else processes the catastrophe, Grandfell treats it like an appointment that arrives slightly early. Nearby players recognize Hoyeol as the mysterious man from television. Their surprise turns to disbelief when he keeps walking straight toward the newly materialized fortress. They realize he intends to enter immediately and completely alone. To the crowd, that looks suicidal. To Grandfell, it is simply the shortest route to Ascura. A gigantic winged gargoyle watches the entrance as Hoyeol crosses the shattered courtyard. He does not hesitate, even with every surviving player staring from behind. Grandfell looks up at the imposing guardian and calls it a terrible statue. With that brutally concise review, Lee Hoyeol enters the Count family's fortress alone. Hoyeol walks alone into the Count family's fortress, where a horned stone gatekeeper towers over the courtyard. His first reaction is not fear, but architectural criticism. The statue is terrible. He refuses to dignify the estate with the word fortress. In Grandfell's estimation, even this sprawling stronghold is excessive housing for one shabby vampire. Grandfell calmly remembers that the Cloudy Mansion was 10 times larger. Hoyeol immediately adds one private correction. It was never his real house, just an aggressively detailed teenage fantasy. The insult reaches its target. Red light ignites inside the gatekeeper's eyes, and the supposedly decorative monster begins moving with enough murderous intent to settle the art debate personally. The 10-meter gatekeeper lunges at Hoyeol, who remains planted directly in its path. Nearby players stare in horror as stone claws descend on the lone man. The watching raiders cannot decide whether to save him or run. From their angle, Hoyeol is either spectacularly brave or volunteering to become courtyard decoration. Hoyeol briefly considers the sensible option of running. Grandfell answers by straightening his collar and cracking his knuckles, which is aristocratic language for absolutely not. One punch lands in the charging statue's face. The massive gatekeeper explodes into broken stone, while Hoyeol stands beneath the falling debris without taking a step back. Outside, the Shining Guild hears the impact from the fortress and recognizes the sound from Hoyeol's earlier broadcast. Jessie Highness reacts before anyone else can finish processing it. Jessie abandons the formation and launches herself toward the fortress on a glowing magic circle. Her guildmates shout after her, but curiosity has already achieved escape velocity. The Shining Guild calls Jessie back as she accelerates over the battlefield. She ignores every warning and races toward the unknown mage whose spell she has replayed dozens of times. The nearby raiders stare at the rubble, stunned that Hoyeol erased the gatekeeper in one blow. He quietly credits years of smashing stones during Akshan's brutal training. Grandfell refuses to call that thing art. He condemns its texture, material, and craftsmanship with such precision that Hoyeol almost sounds like the world's angriest museum curator. The gatekeeper's death becomes an invitation. Players who were hesitating suddenly stampede through the open entrance, rushing past Hoyeol before another monster can change its mind. Hoyeol watches the crowd pour inside, apparently treating the destroyed gatekeeper like a signal flare. Crossing the threshold also gives him a new objective: make the vampires feel the fear of being hunted, which sounds much trickier than merely defeating them. Hoyeol keeps moving while his inner self protests that Ascura is level 430 and he has only reached level 100. Grandfell's answer is brutally simple: he is a demon hunter. The level difference means nothing to Grandfell. His pride treats Hoyle's perfectly reasonable panic as background noise and carries them deeper into the fortress without hesitation. The first interior chamber is an enormous banquet hall lined with empty chairs and portraits of Ascura. The place is lavish, silent, and radiating the hospitality of a haunted tax office. As Hoyeol passes, the painted eyes follow him and dark laughter leaks through the corridor. The decorations are not harmless. Ascura has turned vanity into a security system. Dawn enters through the main gate and immediately buckles. Tommy and his guildmates are hit by an invisible pressure before they can establish a formation. Healing magic steadies Tommen, but the hallway still feels suffocating. He senses unseen eyes on him and recognizes the sensation as the work of a demonic status effect. Gaon's analyst identifies the source. Every portrait of Ascura is projecting the abnormality. The guild realizes the main hallway itself is a carefully decorated trap. Gaon's mage burns the portraits, and the pressure on Tommen eases at once. One flaming picture later, the castle's interior design finally contributes something useful. The analyst explains that portraits, statues, and furnishings throughout the fortress inflict status abnormalities. That knowledge also explains why the experienced Shining Guild avoided the main entrance. Tahem reluctantly admits Shining has more experience. As a barbarian, he is especially vulnerable to status effects, and the entrance alone has already pushed him dangerously hard. Hoyeol walks through the same cursed gallery completely unaffected. Grandfell studies Ascura's portraits and delivers the devastating verdict that they are absolute garbage. He extends the critique to every statue and wonders why so many ugly portraits exist. Grandfell finally understands why narcissism is classified as a disorder. The fortress layout fares no better. Hoyeol finds pointless forks and corridors leading nowhere, then concludes the builders used their heads purely as decoration. Grandfell's senses interrupt the property inspection. Hoyeol detects a sickening presence ahead and follows it toward a towering staircase at the fortress's center. At the top waits an ornate double door soaked in demonic energy. Hoyeol knows the nauseating presence behind it can only belong to Count Ascura. The silence suggests no other players have reached the center. Hoyeol approaches the door alone, ready to confront Ascura before the rest of the raid catches up. Before he can enter, Jessie drops into his path upside down and announces that she found him. Hoyeol has discovered a new fortress hazard, an extremely enthusiastic flying mage. Jessie says she saw his incredible magic and beams directly into his personal space. Hoyeol recognizes the same woman who watched his fight and wonders what she wants. Jessie casually floats beside him, burning mana as if the resource comes from a faucet. Hoyeol, who has rationed every spell, can only admire the financial confidence. She has replayed Hoyle's video dozens of times but still cannot identify his spell. Claiming knowledge of every kind of magic, Jesse eagerly asks him to explain it. Grandfell answers her excited request with a single requirement: manners. A level 430 vampire waits behind the door, yet poor etiquette has somehow become the immediate emergency. To demonstrate, Hoyeol places a hand on Jesse's forehead and pushes her back to a respectful distance. Grandfell calls manners the bare minimum when asking someone to teach you. Jesse falls silent, but Hoyeol has no time to wait for the lesson to sink in. A surge of killing intent confirms Ascura is finally awake. Crimson power erupts through the hall behind Hoyeol and Jesse. Natural enemy activates immediately, confirming that the presence approaching them is unmistakably demonic. Count Ascura emerges from his sleep, amused that only 2 humans disturbed him. His overwhelming aura floods the chamber, and Jesse finally realizes exactly where her curiosity carried her. Jesse recognizes the level 430 vampire and asks whether her mysterious mage is all right. Hoyeol ignores the pressure and addresses Ascura simply as Count. Hoyeol calls Ascura a vulgar, vile vampire pretending to possess aristocratic blood. The Count's smile falters as Grandfell turns the confrontation into a matter of noble discipline. He selects the necklace imbued with the blood's curse as an offering. The chain swings between them, carrying exactly the sort of terrible idea that demon hunters call preparation. Natural enemy burns through Hoyeol's gaze as he activates exorcism ritual. He promises to teach Ascura a lesson for impersonating an aristocrat, and the hunt finally becomes personal. With the cursed necklace dangling from his hand, Hoyeol activates exorcism ritual and uses it as an offering. The skill normally strikes only a demon, but this variation drags Ascura into Hoyeol's consciousness for a private battle over his body. The gamble is horrifying. Ascura is level 430, and if Hoyeol loses control inside his own mind, the vampire could possess him instead. Ascura mocks the dirty necklace, then attacks before Hoyeol can explain anything to Jesse. Hoyeol pulls her clear as the Count declares both humans beneath him. Jesse warns that Ascura is reclaiming the power he distributed among his subordinates. The Count is already more than 300 levels above Hoyeol, and the gap is still growing. The necklace flashes, and Ascura's confidence turns to confusion. Space collapses around him as the offering pulls the vampire away from the physical fortress. Ascura lands inside a vast mental wasteland and finds Hoyeol waiting below him. The battlefield now belongs to the man whose mind Grandfell has been fortifying for years. Hoyeol looks around the unfamiliar inner world while Ascura laughs behind him. The Count believes the strange ritual has merely trapped one fragile human within reach. Ascura rises above the broken ground and dismisses the ritual as cheap trickery. He prepares to destroy Hoyeol directly, confident that annihilating the mind will end the fight. A massive crimson blast swallows Hoyeol and tears through the landscape. Ascura watches the explosion with the relaxed certainty of someone who has never met Grandfell's mentality stat. Ascura surveys the burning rubble and assumes Hoyeol has become ash. He had expected entertainment, but now congratulates himself on identifying another inferior human. A calm voice answers from the smoke. Hoyeol asks whether ashes are truly what Ascura sees, sounding more amused than injured. Hoyeol stands unharmed atop the shattered terrain. Ascura turns toward him and realizes the supposed victim has been watching from a safe distance the entire time. Ascura cannot understand how Hoyeol survived. The demon hunter smiles, tells him to watch closely, and prepares to reveal who actually died. The question hangs between them. Who was the one that died? Ascura's certainty fractures as Hoyeol controls the logic of this mental battlefield. Ascura sees Hoyeol standing on his own severed head. Sweat gathers around the vampire's eyes as the hunter transforms a boastful predator into confused prey. For the first time, genuine terror reaches Ascura's face. The Count who called humans insects now stares upward like something much larger has chosen him for dinner. Ascura lashes out wildly inside the ritual, hurling crimson power toward Hoyeol. The attacks are enormous, furious, and completely unable to touch the calm figure before him. In the physical hall, Hoyeol has not moved at all, while Ascura thrashes in a blind rage. Jesse watches the frozen mage and raging vampire with absolutely no idea what is happening. Inside the ritual, Hoyeol calmly observes that Ascura appears afraid. The word strikes harder than any weapon. because the vampire can no longer deny it. Ascura screams for the insect to be silent and unleashes another devastating strike. His power tears away the entire upper section of the fortress. When the dust clears, Hoyeol and Jesse are still standing beneath the missing roof. Even Hoyeol's inner self is impressed by how much Castle Ascura removed in one tantrum. Jesse assumes Hoyeol predicted the attack would miss and praises his composure. Hoyeol privately admits he had no time to react. Her reflexive shield saved them both. Exorcism ritual usually attacks only the demon, sparing anyone it possesses. The offering changes that effect by forcing Ascura into the demon hunter's consciousness. Victory in that inner contest depends entirely on mentality. Ascura now sees monstrous hands closing around him and begs the unseen hunter to stay away. Ascura flees through his own nightmare while demonic shapes chase him. Grandfell's mind remains untouched, leaving the vampire alone with every fear he once inflicted on humans. Hoyeol admits the ritual is even more effective than expected. Jesse can only stare at the motionless mage and ask what he did to the screaming count. Ascura attacks empty air and runs from threats nobody else can see. He cannot accept that a human has reversed their roles so completely. The system confirms the reversal. Vampire Count Ascura is afflicted with fear, the same status demons use to break human minds. The hunter has made the predator understand his prey. That terror completes the quest objective to make a vampire feel hunted. Hoyeol smiles faintly and decides it is time to finish the job. Jesse chases after Hoyeol, convinced the nightmare must be some kind of visual magic. She immediately asks him to teach it, with payment included this time. Hoyeol drives his dagger into the terrified Count, but the strike deals no physical damage. Fear has broken Ascura's mind, not erased his level 430 body. Rather than waste another attack, Hoyeol orders Jesse to finish Ascura. The Count crawls at their feet while Jesse processes the world's least expected group assignment. Jesse protests that Hoyeol already did everything important. She cannot understand why the mysterious mage wants her to claim the final blow against a legendary boss. Jesse points out that Hoyeol could kill Ascura himself. Hoyeol's inner answer is less impressive. He wants to, but his level is far too low. Grandfell refuses to admit weakness and tells Jesse she must be strong to reach this chamber. The message is blunt: catch on and kill him. Jesse decides this must be another lesson. Kill Ascura, grow stronger, and perhaps understand Hoyeol's mysterious technique herself. She apologizes for asking to be taught and unleashes her magic. Jesse's spell erupts into a towering violet pillar that swallows Ascura. The blast is so violent that even Hoyeol's inner voice loses its prepared commentary. Count Ascura is defeated and Hoyeol receives most of the loot thanks to his massive contribution, along with a stack of level-ups. While the notifications multiply, Jesse crouches beside the smoking remains and searches the ash for whatever the raid left behind. Hoyeol is stunned that Jesse killed a weakened level 430 boss with one attack. He finally understands that the cheerful mage is a genuinely high-ranking player. Jesse lifts a smoking black fragment from the remains and, after one curious look, puts it in her mouth. Hoyeol's composure survives Ascura but nearly dies here. While Hoyeol internally demands to know why anyone would eat that, the completed prologue unlocks a class quest called Brewing. As the last demon hunter, he must raise the counterattack's beacon and brighten a world veiled in evil. With Ascura dead, every status abnormality throughout the fortress vanishes. Gan and the other raiders rush into the shattered throne room, demanding to know whether Jesse defeated the Count. Jesse starts to answer, but one Gaon member looks past her and recognizes Hoyeol. The supposedly unknown mage is the same man whose strength stunned everyone outside. Jesse remembers Hoyeol's manners lesson and straightens herself. She admits etiquette is unfamiliar territory but promises to try her best, earning a cautious glance from her new teacher. She introduces herself properly as Jesse Highness, then politely asks for Hoyeol's name. The surrounding players fall silent, waiting for the mysterious man's answer. Bloodied raiders watch the pair from a distance, too exhausted to interrupt. Jesse and Hoyeol face each other beneath the newly opened night sky. Grandfell judges that Jesse certainly lacked manners, but her willingness to change deserves recognition. In his personal court of etiquette, she has somehow passed probation. As a reward, Hoyeol finally gives her the name everyone is waiting for, Lee Hoyeol. Jessie has found her mysterious mage, and the assembled guilds now know him too. While Yoonye prepares a meal at home, the television replays Hoyeol's assault on Count Ascura's fortress. The report says an unidentified man charged through the front gate and immediately drew an attack from the Stone Guardian. The Guardian shattered before nearby players could react. Yoonye only half listens while assuring someone on the phone that she and Arang are fine. Raising her daughter already keeps her busy enough. By the time reporters reached Count Ascura, the vampire had already become ashes. That detail finally catches Yoonye's attention, while Arang races over and points excitedly toward the television. The broadcast names Jessie Highness as one of the players who cleared the fortress, then pauses before revealing her partner. Arang already knows the answer. Uncle Hoyeol is on television. Arang keeps shouting that her uncle is on television. Yoonye starts to correct her, but the silver-haired man filling the screen makes that denial die before it reaches the finish line. The man faces every waiting camera with perfect composure. Asked to identify himself after defeating Ascura, he offers the entire world 4 simple words: "I am Lee Hoyeol." Yoonye stares at the screen as recognition finally lands. Arang celebrates beside her, delighted that the impossibly handsome new player is apparently just Uncle Hoyeol with upgraded hair. Back home, Hoyle's phone vibrates relentlessly while he tries to pretend the outside world does not exist. The caller is Nuna number 2, which means peace has officially expired. He knew this moment was coming. After Ascura fell, every camera captured his face, and the mysterious player Lee Hoyeol became the easiest name in Korea to search. The call log confirms the disaster. Yoonhee and Jiyoon have already tried reaching him again and again. Hoyeol has survived demons, but even 2 worried older sisters look like a much more dangerous boss fight. Hoyeol has 3 older sisters, and they have been close since childhood. Family photos make the relationship look warm, supportive, and almost suspiciously wholesome. The warmth came with one tiny exception. Hoyeol was usually the target. His memories immediately replaced the family portrait with 3 sisters chasing, kicking, and lovingly terrorizing their only brother. He considers ignoring the phone, already imagining the yelling waiting on the other side. Then, Jiyoon's voice erupts through the apartment door instead. Apparently, they skipped the call stage. All 3 sisters hammer the door, demanding that Hoyeol open it while they are still asking nicely. His original self goes pale. He knows exactly how temporary that kindness is. The door opens on the full delegation: eldest sister Lee Yoonhee with Arang, second sister Lee Jiyoon, and youngest sister Lee Yurim. Hoyeol is outnumbered before anyone speaks. Instead of apologizing, Grandfell calmly tells them they are disturbing the neighbors. Hoyeol steps forward in a flawless black suit, somehow turning a family intervention into a noble audience. Grandfell asks his sisters to calm themselves with the gravity of a king addressing rebellious nobles. Yoonye, Jiyoon, Yurim, and even little Arang can only stare at the transformation. Arang recognizes her uncle beneath the silver hair and runs toward him. Her mother looks less reassured. Hoyle's new voice and manners have clearly added several questions to the meeting. Today, Arcana leads with the player who appeared from nowhere. Hoyle's silver-haired image fills public screens under a new headline: "The Mysterious Star Who Simply Declared His Own Name." The report confirms that Hoyeol and Jessie Highness defeated Count Ascura together. Interview requests are already piling up, but Korea's newest star still gives the cameras nothing beyond his name. Interest spreads far beyond Korea. The whole world wants to know who this unknown demon hunter is, while every guild that overlooked him begins reconsidering its life choices. With the hot cocoa delivered, Cheolman asks whether Hoyeol could realistically join Gowan. Tommen looks exhausted. After Grandfell already rejected them, even a perfect 10-0 reward split feels hopeless. Tommen refuses to surrender. Gowan still has Hoyeol's number, and more importantly, a legitimate reason to call him. That alone is enough to put the fire right back in their guildmaster. Tommen's reason is the loot Gowan collected during the city square battle. Hoyeol made that haul possible by warning them, so keeping everything would feel shameless even by raid standards. He argues that sharing it is simply proper. Xiaomini immediately asks how much Tamin intends to give, expecting a negotiation rather than the beginning of a financial avalanche. For Taemin, the number is secondary. Even if Hoyeol never joins Gion, Taemin wants the guild's gratitude to leave an impression that no competing offer can easily erase. To leave the right impression, Taemin decides Gowan should give Hoyeol everything from the square. Subtle recruiting was never really a barbarian specialty, but generosity, this aggressive, is difficult to forget. Taemin's call reaches Hoyeol's apartment, but nobody picks up. Gowan's carefully planned recruiting opportunity is left vibrating on the table, while the family reunion continues only a few steps away. Arang happily rides on Hoyeol's back and calls her uncle pretty. Grandfell carries her with the grave expression of a knight escorting royalty, which only makes his transformation more entertaining. Jeon absolutely loses it, declaring that Hoyeol now looks like a K-pop star. Silver hair, a black suit, and aristocratic manners have turned her little brother into free family entertainment. Grandfell responds in the same chilly formal voice, asking what everyone would like for tea. Arang immediately upgrades pretty uncle to princess uncle, while the sisters enjoy the transformation far too much. The sisters decide Hoyeol has somehow become gentler. Yurim quietly suspects this is not role play at all, but the others are having far too much fun to investigate responsibly. Junyan finally asks the important question: has Hoyeol become a player and synchronized with his old character? Before he can answer, Arang demands that her magical uncle show her Pororo. Grandfell solemnly asks Arang to wait. The old cadence gives his sisters instant memories of the teenager who called himself Grandfell and begged for silver hair. Hoyeol's dignity is now running on borrowed time. They remember him announcing aristocratic greetings for their parents, and Hoyeol finally calls his laughing sisters demons. His bright red face only makes things worse until Yurim cuts through the chaos and calls his name. Once the teasing settles, Yunya asks whether Hoyeol is in danger. The question strips away the comedy. All three sisters came because becoming a player can get him killed. They have heard how often players are injured, and Hoyeol ignored every call after appearing on television. For hours, his sisters had no way to know whether something terrible happened. Yunye threatens to tell their parents, who left early to make dumplings and still know nothing. Hoyeol can already imagine that family meeting becoming louder than any raid. The sisters tell him to quit if the work becomes too hard and remind him that the entire family stands behind him. Hoyeol finally apologizes for making them worry. Grandfell answers with royal certainty. Demon hunter Grandfell Cloudy Arpaeus Romeo is perfectly suited for the job. Hoyle's attempt to reassure his family has somehow become a full aristocratic job interview. Grandfell tells his sisters not to worry. They find the strange tone adorable, while the original Hoyeol retreats into blue despair and considers whether embarrassment can actually be fatal. After finishing their tea, the sisters finally prepare to leave. Yunya Hai thanks Hoyeol, Arang waves goodbye, and the apartment becomes noticeably quieter before the door even closes. Grandfell wishes his sisters a safe journey and tells Arang he looks forward to meeting her again. Before leaving, Yunya asks him to call more often, while Yurim offers support and immediately demands that he never reveal she is his sister. At the doorway, Yurim tells Hoyeol to save carefully and never become anyone's guarantor. The oddly specific warning leaves him puzzled, but one word sticks firmly in his mind: savings. The word savings reminds Hoyeol of rupture clear rewards. Players receive direct funding after successful raids, and he has cleared several dangerous stages without ever checking what his contribution actually earned. Clear rewards are the player's main source of funding, with larger payouts for harder ruptures and higher contribution. Nobody knows where the money originates, though rumors claim missing Cosmo's CEO Raymond Shan pays it personally. Hoyeol opens his banking app and starts dreaming cautiously, perhaps 10 million won, maybe 20, and surely not 100 million. His imagination is about to lose badly. His account balance is 10,89871. Whatever earlier clear rewards have already been deposited, they pushed his total just over 10 billion. Hoyeol freezes, discovering that demon hunting is surprisingly effective retirement planning. Inside Shining's Korean branch, Camilla leans over Jesse Highness and demands answers about Lee Hoyeol. Since Jesse fought beside him against Ascura, she is the obvious target for every curious question. Camilla cannot understand how Jesse defeated Ascura beside Hoyeol, yet knows nothing about him. Jesse answers with a flat refusal, keeping the tablet in her lap and offering exactly 0 useful clues. Camilla keeps teasing, accusing Jesse of watching strange videos online. Jesse remains silent, which is not exactly the airtight defense an innocent search history would choose. Jesse quietly says Camilla's name, and one intimidating look wipes away her friend's playful confidence. Apparently, Hoyle's manners lesson has not yet extended to friendly conversation. Jesse quietly asks Camilla not to bother her because she needs to focus. Whatever is playing on that tablet matters enough to earn the concentration Jesse usually reserves for battle. Camilla finally gives up and promises to stop asking, though she complains that Jesse is painfully cold. Jesse does not look away from the lesson long enough to disagree. Camilla leaves wondering why one of the world's strongest mages is studying Korean greetings and etiquette. Jesse keeps watching with the dedication of someone preparing for a far scarier rematch. A notification appears over Jesse's Korean etiquette video. Her reward for clearing Ascura's fortress has been credited. The message is on Jesse's tablet, confirming that this first alert belongs to her. Back at home, Hoyle's inner self erupts in panic while Grandfell stays perfectly composed. His own fortress payment has landed too, and one glance at the new account total is enough to break his calm. The new balance is 110,879 won, roughly 100 billion above the total Hoyeol checked earlier. The underlevel demon hunter stares at the screen, trying to understand how he became richer than most buildings. Ascura's loot had already satisfied Hoyeol, yet this separate official payout dwarfs his expectations. He can only wonder how impossibly rich Raymond Shan must be if the rumors about personally funding clear rewards are true. Grandfell dismisses 110 billion won as loose change and calls Hoyeol pathetic for celebrating. Hoyeol finally snaps back at the aristocrat living rent-free inside his newly valuable head.